All right, let's get this party started. All right, seeing people jump in. Welcome, welcome. This is the tail end of day two of the Sales and BD Summit. People can't see me, right? There we go. All right, maybe I just can't see myself. Sorry about that earlier, Stephen. I always try to during the presentation hide myself away so I'm not the focus, so that way I'm not showing up on the screen when you're chatting. But man,
All good, all good. No, happy to share the limelight with you, Ben. Always.
so I am super excited, and I know we're going to let everybody kind of jump in real quick. Uh, for everybody here, just to make sure that I got the chat actually set up properly, because I have to do that every single time. Share the location of where you're at and the niche that you focus on for recruiting, and make sure to share it with everybody and not just me and Steven. Okay. A lot of bilingual French. I am. Oh, hey, Greg. I'm working on trying to learn French right now. Talk about a butt kicker. Orlando, Salt Lake, St. Louis, Florida, pharmacy. Awesome. Well, I'll have everybody jump in, give everyone a few minutes to type. Phenomenal. Chicago, Tahoe, Lawrenceville, Georgia. Site reliability engineers. I actually just hired one of those for a client. Cybersecurity, love it. Very trust based, skeptical of automation. Perfect industry. Even though I know a lot of cyber recruiters that are using a lot of AI, it's one of the give and takes. But okay, while we're still letting a few people come in, one of the craziest things that I have seen over this past year is what is happening with artificial intelligence in the go-to-market space. And typically recruiting is easily 5 to 10 years behind what is happening in the rest of the sales environment. And here's a cool thing, like within go-to-market, GTM, and AI, so much is happening. They have the hottest position right now is what they're calling it, the GTM engineer, go to market engineer, who's really this AI specialist. And I truly believe that in the recruiting space, the recruiting engineer, I think, could be one of the hot jobs going into 2025 and 2026. But here's also the most important thing. With some of the AI tech that Steven's going to talk about, you could be a search firm owner, solopreneur, or working with a big team and probably easily 10x what you've been doing before. And like a lot of these AI tools are super complicated, and he's going to kind of showcase some of them and show what he's doing with some of his clients. But so I'm going to pass it over. Steven, is all you. I'll shut off my mic. I will shut off my camera and let you roll, buddy.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. Thanks for the introduction. Happy to be here. Happy to be here with everyone, and happy to share some of the innovative things that we're doing with our staffing and recruiting clients. I've been in the business development space for the majority of my career in sales and lead generation, and a lot of that time has been spent working with staffing and recruiting companies over the last 3 years or so, especially. And so, given that we've really put our attention on leveraging the latest tools, strategies, automations, AI, whatever you want to call it, really leveraging it to cut above the noise and connect with someone and send people an offer or a message that they're most ready to receive at the right time. That's really what it's about. All these tools are all designed just to save you time, to save you some money, but really they're designed for business development purposes to send somebody an offer, a message, something novel, something proper at the right time. That's the foundation of all of this stuff. So I'm gonna jump around a little bit. I'm gonna share some slides and I'm gonna also share some of the things that we've built so you can see how cool these things are. Because most of the things that we've built really are just based on staffing and recruiting firms telling us, well, we do this. We do this, and doing this is what gets us results, but it takes us a lot of time. Or when I do this, when I have a few minutes in a day, I'm able to do this and I've gotten appointments or clients from doing this. And those conversations spark ideas for us to build something for them or automate one of the workflows or things that they're already doing. So I'm going to focus on sharing some of those things with you. And even if you have idea, maybe even, some of the uh, some of the things that we discussed today, we could, maybe you guys will have ideas of things that you're doing manually, and we can see how we can build something for that too, right? That's totally possible. So as Ben mentioned, like the state of recruiting today, as you guys all know, are feeling, right? It's getting more and more competitive by the day. To grab a firm's attention, you got to do something different, use the right tools, use the right strategies. I would say, in large part, I've kind of seen the evolution of all of the different top of funnel lead generation strategies, starting from, let's say, pre 2010, where everything and still is, of course, to an extent, like relationship based. You can just send a couple of well thought out emails here and there, a well thought out phone call here and there, and get some results and get a foot in the door and all that kind of stuff. That started to evolve on a new level. And around 2010, when some of these tools started coming out with like drip campaigns where you can send 5 or 6 email sequences and all these sort of things, I really saw that happening in the tech startup space. And I was one of the first users of some of these tools. And when you just started using them and you were just able to send a 3 or 4 email sequence, you got so many meetings right away. So one sec. Seems like my sharing got canceled. One sec, guys. Oh, bummer. The window that I had open was just closed. So let me just open it. I had a couple of things prepared there within Clay, but maybe we'll just figure it out and talk about it, and it'll be a clunk around there a little bit. It'll be a little bit clunky. Okay. So let me reshare here. Sorry about that. So in any case, those tools that started with those drip campaigns and all this kind of fun stuff was really useful, was really interesting. When you use them, you were one of the first persons using them, you got meetings right away. A lot of you guys might have felt that yourselves at some point, just getting lots of meetings when you just did a blast at some point. That's working less and less. You can't just blast with an offer anymore. You get less and less responses, so you have to provide some timeliness with it. And that's where we are now, right? That's where I would say the AI-powered business development revolution is in all of this. So the goal is to sort of get back to this, where you were able to send these hyper-personalized, relevant messages, well thought out messages, but do that with some scale and automation so that you're able to do what I call scalable personalization, essentially send the right kind of messages at the right time with some timeliness and personalization and leveraging scale. So that's the key, right? So what are some of the kinds of things that you can do these days, right? With these tools like Clay and all these other tools, right? You can pull thousands of hiring managers who have roles that can't be filled and compile lists of decision makers within minutes. You can automate outreach the moment someone mentions hiring or growth needs. You can use even RSS feeds to pull in all the most relevant information from your industry. And whenever someone is mentioned who is a decision maker in those articles or has written that article, pull in their contact information, have an email sent mentioning how you read their article in Oil and Gas Times or what have you, right? All of these kinds of things are possible now. And there's edge in all of these strategies because there's not a lot of people using it. We're kind of at that time right now where we were a couple of years back when, the first people using these things are the ones that are going to get the most results. So I'm going to share some of these things in more detail with you. First and foremost, I want to just kind of give you a lay of the land of our favorite tools. So you can just understand our recruiter tech stack, right? We've tested a lot of them, and these are the ones we go with. HeyReach is our favorite for LinkedIn outreach, especially if you have teams. What's cool about HeyReach, and I'll show you some of these things. What's cool about HeyReach for LinkedIn automation is that you can have multiple LinkedIn profiles connected on an individual campaign. So if you're targeting finance people in Chicago, CFOs in Chicago, you can have 5 people on your team all targeting that round robin without worrying about there being any kind of overlap. That's a very big innovation in the LinkedIn tool space because the major downside of LinkedIn outreach in the last few years has been LinkedIn's limitation on your ability to connect. You used to be able to connect to 800,000 people a week. Now it's about 200. So by stringing together a couple of profiles on your team, you can get back to those same sort of limits from the past by stringing together a couple of profiles, and they are able to do that more affordably than a lot of tools. So we really like HeyReach. It also has the best integration with Clay. There's no other tool that where we can get all of our information and with a click of the button pull that data right into HeyReach and have it all trigger together. That's part of why we like it. SmartLead is our favorite tool for email outreach. At this point, there's really two major players in the game, SmartLead and Instantly, though both of those tools allow for, if you guys aren't familiar with the idea of domain switching, it's really impossible at this point to send 100 emails a day from one email address. If you try it, you're going to ruin the reputation of your email address, you'll ruin the reputation of your domain. It's just a way to burn email addresses. So the way around it is to use a tool like SmartLead or Instantly that lets you put in a number of email addresses from a number of different domains and have each one send 10 or 20, but make it all in a similar sequence. Similar logic to HeyReach. HeyReach allows for the switching of LinkedIn profiles in a singular campaign. This allows for the switching of email addresses. With that right infrastructure set up, and SmartLead lets you set up that kind of infrastructure, like it has walkthroughs and all these sort of things, onboarding that lets you set up the right email infrastructure to send some of this volume. You'll be able to set that up for yourself. If you do that right, then yeah, you can send 100, 200, 300 emails a day, and and that's a great tool to have because volume does matters. If you compare the volume with the personalization, you're going to have great results. Clay, of course, the tool you guys all know about. We'll be getting into some Clay tables. That is what we use for all of our data enrichment, AI enhanced stuff, enriching things, pushing it into the execution layers of HeyReach, SmartLead, and then Apollo, you guys have all heard of, and Zero Bounce to verify emails. And we build that all into the workflows of Clay. So let's get into some of these right now. And I'm going to be a little bit clunky because my browser window shut down with all of my prepared tabs. So I'm going to share with you now a couple of different ideas and ways to actually execute this and make it all work. So honestly, the first idea I want to share, I don't think I even listed it here, but because this is all about business development, this isn't just about AI, right? This is about business development and getting you guys more leads. Pretty much with every single staffing and recruiting client I've worked with, I don't think I've ever worked with one that had done this. They all want to know like the fancy thing or get things to work and all this sort of stuff, and they leaving something very basic on the table. I could tell you the lowest hanging fruit for any staffing and recruiting firm that's been in business for a couple of years is to leverage their first degree connections with an automation tool like HeyReach or whatever tool you guys are using, right? What does that mean? Here's what we do with every single client that has some first degree connections. We go to LinkedIn, go to Sales Navigator Recruiter, filter by first degree connections, and filter by all of their titles that of the most senior people that they would reach out to. Let's say finance, right? So it would be CFO, Chief Accounting Officer, VPs of Corporate Finance, all that kind of fun stuff. You filter for that for your first degree connections. Let's say you're in finance, right? And then you can filter if you wanted to go an extra step, extra 2 steps that we go that you may or may not want to go is you look through that list. Anybody you don't want to reach out to, you put them on a do not contact list within LinkedIn Sales Navigator, so they're excluded from your campaign. And then if you wanted to go an extra mile, you can plug in those names into Clay and see which ones are hiring for finance positions versus not in very quickly. And then you'd split that into 2 lists. If you do that, even if you have 200, 300 connections that are kind of aware of you, kind of, right? You've been in business for 5, 10 years. Even if you have such a small connection list, that is going to create tens and tens and tens of meetings, dozens of meetings for you guys. I have run campaigns for 2 or 3 months for clients based on 300 or 400 contacts, just because we were getting a meeting for like every 5 or 10 people we reached out to. These people know who you are. If you reach out to them, they'll respond favorably. The key is to send a message that is not overly aggressive. So we simply send a message, something along the lines of, hey Jim, uh, how's your wanted to check in and hear how your New Year's been or how Q1 is going for you. Thought it'd be nice to catch up since we're both in a tangential space. Um, happy to share what's going on locally around finance, and also hear about what needs you may have. Would be more than happy to connect later this week or next. That message plus two relatively simply follow-up messages is going to fill up your calendar if you have 200-300 connections that you haven't reached out to. So I'm going to show you lots of fancy stuff right now. And I can tell you that that campaign is going to work better than a lot of the things that I show you if you run it and you have some first degree connections. So like, let's just saying that to not forget about the basics. So that's one piece. The other play that I'm going to talk about and show you guys right now is the hiring manager play. This is a major source of lead generation that a lot of staffing and recruiting firms run. They do a lot of this manually. Some people have already started to implement this. This is like one of the first automations that a lot of staffing and recruiting firms implement because it's a great time saver. But basically, what this play is, and what Clay allows you to do, is scrape any job board anywhere, right? You can scrape any job board anywhere for any job position that you like. So you want CFOs, you want heads of marketing, you want heads of sales, whatever you want, and you can filter by location. So Clay will pull in all of those job postings. It will then tell you if there's a recruiter listed to contact on that job posting. We built the workflow to do a couple of extra things. So I'm gonna show you one if I can pull one up. It might look a little clunky or confusing or whatever, but I'll go through it all because it looks complicated, but the end result is elegant. So let's see if I can find one. Okay, let's look at nurses. So this is an example of that, right? This is an example of a workflow that we built within Clay. We've imported all the jobs for registered nurses. We then, Clay automatically fills in their LinkedIn title, company page, job URL. Then we've connected our OpenAI API key into this tool and that allows us to use AI to help us do some research and to filter in ways that would have been impossible before. So what prompt do we use? We tell it to, you're a web researcher, so take a look at their website, take a look at their LinkedIn page, and make sure that they're not a recruiting company, because who posts a lot of job postings? Other staffing and recruiting companies, and you don't want to reach out to them. So by having AI essentially read their text, it can discern contextually if it's a staffing and recruiting company or not. If it isn't, it's qualified. If it is, it's disqualified, and it doesn't go to the next step, because this is what's called a waterfall enrichment. It's just like a process, right? Like a factory conveyor belt doing one step after the other. Each unlocks the next. So cool. This guy didn't make the cut, right? Squid Games didn't make a cut, deleted, not a staffing, it's a staffing company. Then it goes to the next step. So this is where we can get kind of fancy. If you don't know who your hiring manager is off the bat, you can have AI research it. So we do two things. One is we tell AI, you're an investigative journalist looking for the most likely hiring manager for the position. We list the position, output their name. They're likely going to be a VP, SVP, C-suite hiring manager. They'll likely be in the same city. Most likely hiring managers from the same department, likely nursing. Do not return the CEO or HR. We're looking for a direct hiring manager. So you can give more and more conditions to get it more and more better, right? The key is ultimately how would you do this? You have to write down how you would find that hiring manager and be as explicit as possible. Because if you leave it too much to AI, it's not going to give it to you. But if you're very explicit, it'll give you a name. So in this case, Chelsea, she's the head of nursing, and she holds a senior VP of clinical operations. So it gives me the reason that it's her. Awesome. So we got her. This one we use AI because it's a little challenging to find out. They have different titles for heads of nursing, right? So that's why we leverage AI. Then for this client, we wanted also the CEO and the HR head. In this case, rather than leverage AI, we used a tool called Serper, which we built right into Clay. And what Serper does, essentially, it just does a Google search and it pulls in the first result. So we tell it to do a Google search for, let's say, HR directors. Do a Google search for HR directors at company name. That's what it's doing. HR directors at company name. And it should be from LinkedIn. Do a Google search for HR director for company name. Do a chief nursing officer and company name. And that will give you a result. So that gives you like a precise result. Whereas AI will research and analyze based on your parameters. Doing it this way will give you a very precise result. So that's how, in this case, in this example, we got 3 potential hiring managers, all with 1 click, right? Like once you have this workflow, it's all just 1 click. And then we have all our email finding tools to try to find the email. And it's just, going through and finding the email for all of them. And then, but ultimately the end result is you get their email address, right? And it pulls in all of their email addresses. And then that can then push into sending them an email with a personalized message. So like that, the next step that we've done a lot that we've tested and it works better is if you can rewrite the job description a little bit in the first sentence. So saying like, hey, I understand you're looking for a licensed practical nurse with 5 years of experience who's got this kind of clinical experience doing this, this, and this. All we do is help place nurses in Bethesda. Would love to connect and speak with you. So that kind of email works well. That kind of email you can send on a mass level. It has a little bit of personalization. We choose job postings that are a little bit stale, 15, 20 days, and 3 or 4 sentence email and a couple of follow-ups. So yeah, that's one of our favorite plays. And you can push that into email or LinkedIn. And this column can just once it gets all this information, it gets the copy, it just plugs into any of your email tools or LinkedIn tools. It takes a little bit of effort to set it up. It's not, it's not the easiest thing in the world right out the box, but there's obviously videos you can watch or work with somebody. But once it's set up, it is an automation that's just doing it for you. Let's see. I have more to share. I mean, I don't know if there was some questions or thoughts. Okay. Why use Smartly for I'll stop for questions in the middle of some of these things in case people have them because it's like a lot of information. So why use Smart Lead for email outreach and not Apollo? Again, Apollo is not good for email any longer. Apollo is great for data. Their data is very accurate, but it doesn't allow for domain switching. That's the problem. Because it doesn't allow for domain switching, you can't send, it only allows you, like you buy an Apollo license and you get 1 email address. You get 1 email address that you can send emails from. So that lets you send like 15, 20 emails a day or 30, right? So for that, if that's all you want to do, fine. From my experience, you have to send more volume for certain verticals. So if you wanted to send 100, 200, 300 emails a day, you really can't do that with Apollo. You have to do that with a tool like Smart Leads or Instantly that will let you load up, like let you purchase and load up like 50 email addresses or 20 email addresses or 10 email addresses, each with the ability to send 20 or 30 each, and they'll just rotate in your campaign. That's what will let you get the volume. What lets you get the volume is that your email address is sending multiple emails. So that's the answer to that question. I don't think we have any others yet, so I'll just keep on going. Okay. All right. So the other play that we've done before is something I call the prescient recruiter. So what does that mean? The prescient recruiter is really looking to reach out when dynamically, when there's some sort of dynamic trigger of a need popping up. Yes, job posting is one way, certainly, but there could be other ways. like monitoring when a senior stakeholder is changing their LinkedIn role and leaving the role, or monitoring contract employees, or monitoring additional keywords and certifications that you may need to find that are hard to find from just basic LinkedIn searches. So that's some of the ways that the Prescient Recruiter play works. Like the moment someone raises funding, that's an overused trigger, but that's one example. As an example, I'll tell you one client that we work with in the IT staffing space. We've done a lot of different things with this client, but they work placing Atlassian developers, and that is their bread and butter. It's a great niche. They're very successful with it, but their biggest challenge is that they work with enterprise companies, and it's always been very difficult to figure out who is the one in charge of hiring Atlassian developers. The problem is that many of them would have a title like IT director or project manager, and there'd be like 300 of those people at Apple or Disney. So which one of them is the one that actually is in charge of hiring Atlassian? So we basically were able to do that by a number of different things. Right within Clay, under Find People, you're able to have some flexibility there to find people. Let's see if I can pull this up for you guys. To find people based on certifications. So we did a couple of things. Find people. So what Clay allows you to do when finding people that doesn't allow you to do in other situations is like searching LinkedIn is getting more refined in the copy of their profiles. So in this example, certifications, we found people who had certifications for Atlassian and Jira.
Can you make
And
sure that you're sharing your screen? Your screen is not sharing anymore.
oh, it stopped sharing? Okay. My apologies. Thank you. All right, let's see. You can see it now, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Yeah. So I was talking about the Prescient Recruiter, Atlassian, and how we helped him find hiring managers at Atlassian, at hiring managers at large enterprises like Disney and Apple who help hire for Atlassian. So in Clay, we have some additional filters that you can use that not as available in LinkedIn. So finding people who have certifications at Atlassian and Jira and who have those very specific very general job titles, IT manager, uh, project manager at companies that are 5,000 plus. By doing that, we managed to get the contact information of the right people because while there were a lot of IT managers or project managers, there were only a few that actually had the certification. And usually if they had that certification and they had something like mentioning that they were hiring or that they managed Atlassian people somewhere in their bio, which we can search just for their about section, right? That level of granularity really helped find those people, whereas we couldn't find it in using LinkedIn natively. So that was a good way to get more targeted, essentially. Another kind of just to kind of jump around here, another theme along that case of like being dynamic with your signals is using and building RSS feed automation. This is something new that we recently done. This is the newest thing that we built. And so what we did here, and if you look at these stats, I know they're hard to see, but we just recently ran a campaign, 287 287 emails sent, 6 replied, 4 positive. That's really not that common. Like it's not that common to get someone who wants to meet with you or speak with you every 80 emails or so. So what did this do? Right? I'll show you the Clay table. Essentially, we plug Clay in with all of the news articles relevant to this client's industry. So it was constantly updating. So this was oil and gas. So energy, oil and gas, all that fun stuff. And then it would summarize the article uh, detect if the article was speaking about growth and expansion for the company that it was about, and then pull in the person who was quoted in the article or talking about that growth and expansion. And then once that person was identified, it would write a first sentence to the email and say something along the lines of, hey, I read the recent article in EIN News that quoted your work at Oriana Power. I was particularly impressed by your significant investment in clean energy projects, highlighting your dedicated efforts to enhance Rajasthan's green energy landscape. So in this example, right, this is that's the first sentence of the email. That'll instantly plug into SmartLeads as that first sentence. The headline or the subject line would say, read your article in Oriana Power. So that's going to get a very high open rate. These articles are happening immediately, right? Like these RSS feeds are pulling these articles as they get published. So, it gets published, a few hours later, they get the email. So it's very timely. Like they just saw that it got published themselves. You wrote something about it being published, and then you introduce yourself, and you mentioned you like to get to know them better because you're also in the same field and you focus on staffing, recruiting, and all that kind of fun stuff. So that relevancy is still quite novel because this isn't a strategy being used very often really by anybody, and definitely not in the staffing and recruiting space. So it's a pretty novel strategy that still gets a very high reply rate. So you know that they're expanding. You show that you've found their article, and then you introduce yourself and you mention some of the things that you do. Cool. To that end, I'll show you one more cool thing we built. This is a custom build. We built this for an IT client who was having trouble. We were having trouble getting the meetings basically. Because let's see if I can find it. Because IT is kind of is one of the more difficult verticals actually that I work within. It's really hard to find the hiring manager. Like in cybersecurity, they're difficult people to reach. They don't answer emails as much. They are very skeptical of everything, every email, every message. Everything is like a risk or they don't care about. So we tried to build something and it was also just hard to find who the hiring manager is at larger companies because again, it's hard to know who the hiring manager is of a software engineer, right? There could be so many people that fit that mold, and you don't want to message all of them. So what we built and what this shows essentially is a LinkedIn post scraper. So it's really cool. Basically, anytime somebody mentions the word DevOps or hiring or agile or hiring or whatever keywords we gave them, anytime somebody mentions that anywhere on LinkedIn, it gets pulled into our tool here. And so we get a lot of that being pulled into our tool. But the problem that we found initially when we did this is that a lot of the posts were not great. It was often other staffing and recruiting companies. Many of them were in India or overseas, and they weren't a fit for our client, right? The person posting wasn't the person that we wanted to speak with. So we had to build in a lot of parameters and prompts in the tool to make sure that they were not a staffing and recruiting company posting, they were a native English speaker, then that this was a real company and someone posting who had a real need. And then if it was all qualified, then and only then does it get pushed into HeyReach to get a message and a connection. So the connection message, we have a really high reply rate on this too. I think I pulled it in somewhere. Yeah, right here. So 41% of the people are accepting and 50% of them are replying. That's really high. That's probably our highest campaign in LinkedIn. This is a screenshot from HeyReach. So why? Because again, it's very timely. It's like the thing that you would do naturally if you're just in front of your desk for an hour or two. You look at some LinkedIn posts, you see someone's hiring, maybe you message them and say, hey, I saw your job posting for a senior DevOps manager. I would love to connect. when you send that, most people are going to accept. That's what we're sending, but we're sending it at scale and it's automated. And then our next message is just mentioning like, hey, like I'm in this, I'd love to speak with you more about that, the role, how are you doing with it? I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's really just kind of inquiring about the role and mentioning that you may have somebody who could be a fit. So that's a pretty solid campaign. Lastly, I'll show you one last cool one, and then we can wrap up or maybe go into some questions. Is for anybody who has a decent amount of traffic on their site, for any staffing recruitment firm that has traffic on their site, there's a really cool tool that we've implemented called RB2B, and there's a lot of them out there now. And essentially what it does is it de-anonymizes the people who come to your website. So it doesn't find all of them, but it can find a lot of them. And so once they come on your site, it'll let you know who they are, and and then you can message them, right? Obviously, you wouldn't necessarily say, I saw you on my website. That's a little creepy, but at least you know that they're interested. So this is what it looks like for a client. Again, RB2B is a pixel we placed on the site. It's now dynamically pushing in all of the people who are visiting the website. And then we do, again, that this is what Clay is for, right? We then do some prompting to clean the data and to make sure that they are actually a fit. Because if you look at it, this company wants to target engineering companies. So we basically have a prompt that says, make sure that they're an engineering company, make sure that they make physical products, make sure that they need help with that. So it does that. And if it finds them, then it essentially, you know, tells you that it's a fit. It's primarily a biopharmaceutical company focused on drug delivery. That's actually a good fit for this client. And then it gets a check mark. And once it gets a check mark, then we can go ahead and message them. And that triggers the automation to connect with them and message them. So these are some of your hottest potential leads. They're people who are visiting your website right now. So people you want to speak with. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I think that's quite a lot in terms of just things that are possible, things you can do, different plays that you can do. Well, one last thing I'll kind of just share with you, just because it's cool and we've leveraged this with another client. This is a screenshot from a tool called Kale. For anybody who's looking to find candidates, it's hard to find candidates, check out trykale.com. Kale is a tool that essentially is scraping all of LinkedIn and notifying you when people are making major changes to their profile. So if someone's changing their about page, their about section, their headline, their role description, that's a pretty good indicator that they might be looking to leave, especially especially after you review some of the changes. So pretty cool tool as well. Like if you have hard to find candidates or you want to find more candidates or senior people that maybe are leaving and do an NPC campaign and things like that. So yeah, hopefully that summarizes things a little bit, gives you some ideas of different plays. Happy to answer some questions if you guys have.
Steve,
Yeah,
Steven, did you answer the question on smart lead outreach versus Apollo?
I did answer that question. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I thought you did. Just want to double check. How can somebody asked, how can they connect with you? I'm about ready to drop your LinkedIn profile in there. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Stephen Perchikov on LinkedIn, artistsalesacademy.com is the website.
so I'm dropping your LinkedIn profile right now. There's a few questions that people put in the chat. So let me just bounce around in here. Uh,
Okay, yeah, I see some of them. I can answer some as I see some of them.
Regarding Clay, there are different tier platforms like DIY versus done for you versus setup for prompt searches. Do you help customize these for each client, or what is the client, or is there an upgraded service?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of different levels in Clay based on what you're looking for in terms of credits and all of these sort of things. Yeah, so most of our clients, we either start them off on the most basic package or the middle tier package. So I think it's either 150 bucks or 300 bucks a month. It really depends on their needs and what they're looking to do and what things they want automated. That's really what it comes down to. But I don't think most staffing recruiters don't need the highest package of clay. You don't need a lot of credits. Rather than use a lot of clay credits, we recommend like signing up to some of these tools like Apollo or Zero Bounce, right? You can get subscriptions to these tools and then plug them into clay. If you don't do that and you use clay natively, then you're using your clay credits, which you get a certain amount each month, and that ends up costing a lot more. So that's usually how we get around it, and that's how you can usually like work with the lowest tier of clay without having to, like break the bank.
And if you guys want a good laugh, I dropped my affiliate code for Clay, and if you use that to sign up, you get like 3,000 extra credits.
Oh yeah.
Tal asked, how are you bypassing the LinkedIn automation police? And thank
Okay.
you for putting that in the Q&A.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the most over, first of all, like the the LinkedIn automation police are not draconian. You know what I mean? Like you think LinkedIn doesn't know automation is going on. They know that it's going on. It's good for their platform. Uh, they just don't like people that are using it aggressively, sending bad messages, ruining the experience of their platform. That's what they don't like. Um, if Microsoft and Google can figure out anything going on with emails, LinkedIn can figure it out too, but they allow it. That's really the truth of the matter. I think it's very overblown, people's fears of LinkedIn. I mean, I do think that there are some risks. Like if you end up using LinkedIn automation and you're sending it to the wrong people, and you're sending just terrible messages, well, then you're making a bad experience on LinkedIn, and more people are going to report you as I don't know this person or spam, and then you'll get a warning. I've never seen or had an account banned on LinkedIn. I've worked with probably 600 plus LinkedIn accounts or pro clients at this point around their LinkedIn, many more than that in terms of accounts. Never had anything banned. I have had a couple that have had warnings. Typically, you get 3 or 4 warnings. Hey. Typically you get 3 or 4 warnings before something more serious happens. Like they don't let you message for a day or a week or connect with people for a day or week. But it takes a long time and it takes a lot of things to happen for you to lose your profile. Like you have to be a very bad repeat offender multiple times from my experience.
Somebody asks, what trigger are you using from the web traffic?
Basically, just if they visited your page, there's a tool called rb2b.com. So there's that. That's one of the top tools out there, and you just put a cookie on your website. It does cost something. You put a cookie on your website, and there's other ones that are cheaper that I can maybe recommend for people who have like even less traffic. I just have to look them up, and if anybody wants to follow up with me, they can. But RB2B is like probably like the top tier one. It's $200 or $300 a month on the most basic package. But if you have couple like 1,000 or 2,000 people visiting your site a month, it might be worth it because it'll identify a couple hundred people a month then in that case. And then you can reach out to them, you can have automations reach out to them. These are people that are clearly interested.
Somebody asks, what are you using to scrape? Sorry, this is Gabe, guys. What are you using to scrape LinkedIn jobs?
So two things. LinkedIn jobs, luckily that's actually native to Clay. So that part is native to Clay. So just by pushing Clay, you don't need a fancy work table, you don't need a consultant or anything. You just be able to use that to get jobs. It's right built into the platform, and it's very easy to get just job postings. If you want to get job postings outside of LinkedIn, like if you want to get job postings from Indeed or Monster or anything like that, that gets a little bit more complicated. That's where you have to use another tool called Appify. Appify builds into Clay, and then that will let you scrape jobs from Indeed, Monster, any other job boards, which is kind of cool. Like if there's an edge in that for you, then you should do it because link scraping LinkedIn job is getting easier and easier. And some of these ones require like slightly more savviness. So those people are probably going to be hit up less.
And then somebody asked if you could share again play number two, that workflow again,
What's clay number two? Can you describe it
or
a little bit?
play number two. I think like the
Okay.
second one that you showed. And this
Let me-
this might be like while you're pulling that up, Tal asked if you are scraping company website. Is scraping company websites possible with Clay?
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. That's what we're doing with the RSS feed to play. We're scraping an article essentially, and then we're building email campaigns based on that article. So let me share my screen. So play two, okay. Was play two the prescient recruiter? I'm trying to pull it up. My computer actually is starting to lag. Uh, one sec. Okay, this was play two. What questions do you have about it?
I think they just wanted to see it again, maybe see it in Clay.
Oh, okay. I mean, this one's kind of like a little bit more general idea, right? This particular one was less of a play and more of like a general idea of how can you be the prescient recruiter? How can you be there when they have a need before like inception, like as the thought arises? What triggers can you look at and use? And so some of them could be like a senior stakeholder changing their LinkedIn role or leaving. That's a trigger. So those are things that could be built in. Uh, companies that have you can filter for companies that have contract employees, so you know that they hire staffing companies. The certifications that I showed you, like filtering for certifications, that's less triggering, but more like just I guess better filtering. So those are a couple ideas. But the other ones, like the pricing recruiter, like the RSS feed play, where you're looking at an article, or once they post a LinkedIn job post, you immediately connect and message them. Those kind of things.
Somebody asked, you mentioned a tool that you can use to pull a list of posts that share with someone's hiring. Should I look into Clay or HeyReach for that?
That's a tool called K-Watch, and that's something that we used within Clay. So it's the data from K-Watch is very messy, but we built a custom integration within Clay so that it cleans up a lot of the data.
Somebody asked, how do you remove the staffing companies on Appify?
Oh, good question. So that's what I was mentioning a bit earlier. You actually don't have to remove them when they get pulled in, but that's what ChatGPT or Claude or that's what AI is for. So let's see if I can pull that one up again. So what we have built into this tool is that when the job posting is brought in, the nurses are here and we just built a prompt. And that's the first prompt that we do. We say, hey, ChatGPT, you'll do a web research, you'll do some web searching, read their LinkedIn page, read their website, and if they are a staffing and recruiting firm, return the word disqualified. So this is a staffing, so then it finds out if it's a staffing and recruiting firm and then returns the words disqualified. So if that's the case, then that's what happens. And like IntelliCare, right? Or what have you. So then that's essentially how it does it. That's how you would filter for it.
Somebody asked if they can get access to K-Wash. They said they'd love to explore that. It's anonymous, so I don't know who exactly that is. They
Yeah,
tried
yeah.
building something similar, but had some issues as well.
Oh yeah. K-Watch is the name of the tool. So I mean just Google it, you'll find it.
If you want a good laugh talking about HeyReach, HeyReach, I think I know integrates with Clay, integrates with I'm always saying it wrong, RB2B.
RB2B. Yeah.
Like they actually just did a new integration where if I actually went to HeyReach's website, the CEO seconds later automatically sent me a LinkedIn request.
Oh, when you go to their website?
Yeah, that was like a new thing that they kicked off like a while back. I was like, oh wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they're eating their own dog food for sure. They're great guys. I know the CEO and their team, and they're very helpful and they're really building a cool platform.
And once again, I shared Steven's LinkedIn profile if you want to connect with him. There are a few people that are good when it comes to AI in the recruiting space and ahead of the game, and Steven's one of them. And that's why I wanted him to be part of the summit. We talked about mindset, we've talked about sales strategies, we talked about building businesses, but at the same time, AI I think is going to be one of the biggest game changers when it comes to how you can win in 2025. And I think Clay is going to be like one of the top recruiting tools of the year. That's just one of my personal thoughts too.
Yeah, I think so too. It's kind of interesting that it's becoming that. I think it's kind of interesting it's becoming that. I think it's becoming that because it really is useful. Because in my experience, most and but the I guess the world of recruiting is changing because my experience recruiters were some of the slowest to adapt to things. And I think that they're moving faster than I've ever seen them adapt before. And it's kind of interesting because Clay is actually very complicated, but there's so much interest because I think it's just clear the value is there to just make you move faster and operate faster, and it becoming like a must-have tool because other people are using it. So you kind of have to start using it too for your business development as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think oh, wait, we got one more question that popped in. To build the right prompts for each AI that helps filter out or choose how you make decisions, how do you build them? Is it logical thinking or with just another AI for just prompts?
It is logical thinking. You could also, if you're a little lost, you can ask AI to build you a prompt. You can really say like, hey, write me a prompt to help me find this, this, and this, and I want this, this, and this, and this, and this. AI knows how to speak to itself better than you do. So if you give it that kind of hook, it'll start building the kind of prompt that would be like best than what you can do it. A lot of times though, it's very simple. A lot of times it's just saying what you want pretty clearly and logically. Imagine if you're it. You could also just imagine you're speaking to maybe a virtual assistant who doesn't have very clear English, and or something like that, or only imagine you have an employee who only knows how to follow exact directions and doesn't think too much outside the box. So if you give it exact direct, or maybe if they do think outside the box, they go too crazy. So if you give it exact directions, then it will think inside the parameters of what you built, and you'll get what you're looking for typically.
Somebody chimed in and said it only just to us, but kind of like what you were saying is there's also some great internal tools in Clay that can help. I know the Clay team and Clay agents keep on getting better and better almost on like a weekly basis. So who knows with all the
Uh,
integrations and what they could possibly do, what it's going to look like even a few months from now.
100%, 100%. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and it's really just a tool. It's just a tool. And it's just a tool. What it does is it enriches data, filters data, cleans data, plugs in data, and then pushes it into other places. So it eliminates, and that's what a lot of recruiters spend their time doing, honestly. Like they spend a lot of time doing that manually, writing LinkedIn job posts one by one, finding the hiring managers one by one, putting it into a spreadsheet. So Clay can be set up to just do that for you essentially.
All right, we got I think two more questions that just popped in. The question was, do you do one-on-one or small core cohort training on AI?
Yes, thanks for asking. Yeah, most of my services are either one-on-one training or we do it as an agency model. So that's the core of it. Less so groups. I haven't done a group in a while. Unless there's a bunch of people interested in this group, we can certainly do a cohort if enough people show interest from this, and that could be a way to do it. But that would be yeah, yeah, but that's how I usually work.
And what do you typically charge to manage a recruiting company's outreach and BD plan?
To manage a company's recruiting and BD planning?
I,
It depends. I probably would have make sense to have a conversation for getting too deep into that. But anything that we do would, be in the couple $1,000s to start, not the tens of thousands initially, and then we can kind of build from there.
cool. And somebody I think just shot just to us. They'd be interested in a cohort. Make
Oh,
sure
that would
to
be awesome. Yeah, 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 yeah. I can
make sure
definitely like.
to send a LinkedIn message to both of us, and we could probably look at getting that set up or figure something out. But yeah, this has been an awesome session, Stephen. Like I said, you've been in front of the game for a while. I think like recruiters need to catch up when it comes to tech. And so thank you for sharing some of the walkthroughs, some of the clay tables that you put together, some of the software that you're using with your clients that's actually bringing real results for recruiters.
Absolutely, man. No, thank you for having me on. Super happy to speak to your people and would love to speak with you guys more. If anybody has additional questions, wants to connect, Steven Perchikov is my LinkedIn or Artist Sales Academy. So let's connect.
Awesome. And for talk about an awesome day two, do me one favor if you're still on this, one thing, either somebody that's had an impact on you, that something that you're going to implement, message them on LinkedIn, one of the speakers, message them on LinkedIn or share publicly on LinkedIn what you're excited about implementing, learning, and doing in 2025. All right, guys, let's go crush it.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everyone.